Welcome again to my corner of the multiverse. You are at your hump day motivation, your guilty pleasure, the Salty Goddess podcast. And I am Anne Margaret Perry. Welcome, welcome. Well, what are we going to do this week? We are going to talk about the Dysfunctional Eight, those executive functions that many of us suffer with dysfunction, in fact. You know, part of this brand new series, the Dysfunctional Eight, we're going to dive into executive dysfunction, one dumpster fire at a time. Today, we're going to be roasting your planning and prioritization. So buckle up, friends, because it's about to get really structured, which is what we all really need these days, is a little bit of structure in our lives. Because it is so apparent that many of us don't have it at all. You have one job, but now you're buried under a color-coded planner. You got 37 tabs open on your computer screen. You've got 4 text threads going with absolutely nothing of real content or substance. You've got a bag full of regret happening. And here you are. Today, we're going to drag this dysfunction. We're going to give it a nickname. Maybe even put it on a t-shirt for you so that you can understand just how important it is to get these dysfunctions under control. So, let's start out with your planning chaos. When your system involves in writing down everything, you write it on Post-it notes, you write it on the backs of envelopes, receipts, scattered pieces of paper. Like, you're on crack or something. That's not a plan. That is literally chaos in cursive. So I've been going over this whole situation recently with some friends and family who were talking about their levels of dysfunction, if you will. You must get into the habit of taking good notes and writing lists. If your lists are on scattered sheets of paper, how organized is that? It's not organized at all. So those of you who watch on YouTube see my video. In my video, I have a book, hardcover book, lined pages, empty lined pages. Well, they were empty when I bought the book. And my handy dandy, old-fashioned fountain pen. Today, you get to see the one with abalone shell. Okay, this book is my lifeline. Without it, I would be a chaotic mess. It is always in my handbag or my computer bag or my backpack, but in it are the notes that keep me structured, somewhat less chaotic, and more organized than I've ever been. If you're unwilling to use the tools that will assist you in wrangling in those dysfunctions, you will forever have those dysfunctions. Forever. So you have to get on a system, a real system, because if you don't, you will be chaotically dysfunctional and a dumpster fire forever. You don't need another journal, but you've got to stop pretending that your impulse-fueled to-do list is a strategic roadmap when all you've done is write on the back of an envelope or on the back of a store receipt. Okay? Waking up at 2 a.m. and writing things down and then forgetting that you wrote them down or not being able to find the sheet of paper that you wrote them on. That is sleep deprived, literal screaming into the void of nothingness. Okay? It's not going to work. And it's not working because there are 3 lies that you tell yourself. One lie, I work well under pressure. Y'all know that's bullshit. You don't work well under pressure. You just don't know where or how to start. I'm just vibing today is lie number 2. You're just dissociating. Whether you're in your jeans or your yoga pants, ladies and gentlemen, you're dissociating. When you tell people that I'm just trying to figure out my vibe for the day. Bullshit. More bullshit. And I'll know what to do when I get there. Or an alternative is I'll cross that bridge when I get there. That means you have commitment fear, that you don't know what you're going to do. You don't have a plan, and you shoot from the hip all the time. That's, I don't know. That's bad news. You'll know what to do when you get there. When you get where? Exactly. In a drive-through? Picking up your Starbucks? That's a choice. It's not a crisis. You pushing yourself to the end of your deadline and saying, I work well under pressure is a crock of shit. All right. You are undecided on how you're going to begin because you don't have a strategy. You don't have a plan. You don't have a system. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go out and get a green hard-covered book and a fountain pen with abalone shell on it. What I am saying is you need a bound book of some type. I don't care if it's a book that's got diamond art on it, but you need something. It could be a stenographer's notepad. Now, I know I'm dating myself when I say this. Stenographer's notepad. I'll bet 90% of you don't even know what that is. It is the top-bound spiral notebook with green paper, and it was used by, dare I say, stenographers back in the day. And they wrote in shorthand. This was before computers. You learned shorthand as a secretary, and when your boss transcribed a letter to you or some correspondence, a memo, you wrote it in shorthand on a stenographer's notepad. I don't care if you use one of those bad boys. Yep, they still make them, even though nobody uses stenography anymore. I don't care if you use one of those tiny little assignment books that we used to carry. Those fit perfectly in your pocket. Maybe that's more your style because you don't carry a handbag because you're not a handbag carrying kind of person. That's fine. But you have to have a system. You have to stick to that system, and you have to be organized. That is the only way you will get things done on time by deadline and not look like you are living a dumpster fire. Even the most brilliant individuals have a system. The sloppiest individuals have a system, but you've got to have one. So stop telling yourself lies. That's unnecessary. Nobody likes a liar. Okay? So you don't work better under pressure. No, you just realize now is the time I have to sit down and make the plan. Why don't you make the plan on day 1 instead of on day 12 when you only have 13 days to get the job done? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Y'all are wasting time. like there's no tomorrow. Who does that? Who wants to live that way? I wouldn't. That's not a good time. Not to me. And I promise you, it's not a good time to your coworkers, your classmates, your boss, or anyone else that's waiting on you to finish your project. All right? So, when you're overwhelmed, you're overwhelmed because you have failed to make decisions. So these are unmade decisions squatting in your brain like, any other squatter that's hanging out at, a home that's no longer lived in. You're not busy. You're literally avoiding eye contact with your priorities. And that's a waste of time. And you've heard me say it once. You're going to hear me say it again. If it's a waste of time, it's a waste of your most valuable currency. Why do you want to do that? You're not going to get time back. So having a plan, having a system is how you do it. So I sound generic when I say a plan and a system, and it's because I don't really want to describe the system I use, because my system may not work for you. So you're going to want to try out different ones. Don't try out 8,000 different systems. That won't help you. Pick the top 3 and see which one works best for you. I book extra time into my day, knowing full and well that I need to take specific breaks throughout the day. Whether I'm charting on a patient, whether I'm working on content that I'm teaching, whether I'm working on an episode, I need to be able to take a break about every 30 minutes. I time block my day in 15-minute increments beginning at about 06:30. I take the time to read emails before my day actually begins, before most other people get into the office. It gives me time to kind of absorb, digest, and then plan out how the rest of the day is going to go. I'm usually in my office well past 5 p.m., but that is because of the workload that I have and the extra projects that I take on. And I am in my office multiple days a week. I'm not a 5-day-a-week person. Most weeks, to be totally frank, I'm 7 days. I choose that. Okay? There are times it's not that many days. That's true. I do not think that that is doable, acceptable for most other individuals. I will tell you that I know that as an educator, after 40 minutes, you stop absorbing whatever you're listening to, you're watching, you're learning, you're reading, and you literally need a 5 to 8 minute break to get up, move around, kind of let your brain breathe a little bit, let your ass muscles breathe a little bit from sitting that long, and then get back on task. So for me, I block in 15-minute increments, and then I take breaks at every 30-minute mark, because that's how I keep myself fresh, keep the ideas rolling, and stay, able to be attached to that particular project and be focused on it and not lose focus. Otherwise, I can't work 6-7 hours straight on one project without taking a break. That's impossible. So get decided and start looking for a way to strategize and plan your day. So is it the Pomodoro method, which they have multiple apps online that you can download? You can set your own timer to go off every so many minutes to remind you what you have to do. that you need to stop for just a moment, take that breather, run to the ladies' room, men's room, whatever, grab a cup of water, coffee, whatever the case may be. So failing to plan and telling yourself those 3 lies, I'll make that decision when I get there, they're just lies. And who has time for that? So when we talk about planning and prioritization, you have to understand something. This is not an option. You cannot say, well, I'll do some of this and some of that, and none of this and none of that. Planning and prioritization is not optional. It is one of your core executive functions. It means that it's literally your brain's internal project manager. If you fail to plan, if you do not plan, you're literally leaving that executive function hogtied with duct tape across the mouth and in the supply closet. You don't need another app. You need literally executive rehab. You have to admit that you're not flexible. You're not, pivoting. Your flakiness. That's what it is. You have to get down to business, and you have to get serious about scheduling your day and planning it. How does anything get done if you don't plan it? Now, I know you plan your breakfast. I'm going to have blueberry or frankenberry, or maybe you're going to have some Captain Crunch. You might have milk on it. Maybe you don't like milk on your cereal. I don't know. I don't like milk on my cereal. But if I'm going to have blueberry, you best believe I know what bowl it's going in and what spoon I'm using. That's a plan. That is executive function. You plan everything. I took a trip to New York this past week. I made sure there was gas in the car, had an oil change, air in the tires. All those things happen before I take a road trip. It's a plan. That way, I know I'm not going to have to stop repeatedly for gas because I left with a quarter tank on a 788-mile journey. Or I need an oil change now before I even left the driveway. You have to plan. You can't get anything done. And you can sit there and say, oh, I'm not a planner. I'm more like a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're just lazy. All right? I don't care how beautifully you bullet point your list on that envelope if you lose the envelope. Right? You've got to, it's not going to help you execute when you lose things. Get yourself a journal. Get yourself a stenographer's notebook, a composition notebook, or a 3-ring binder and loose leaf paper. I don't really care what it is, but you've got to have something that organizes all your thoughts, all your lists, and all the things that you have to accomplish. Okay? Otherwise, you're literally looking at a scrapbook of failure. Major failure. All right? You're not a visual learner. You're a procrastinator with great penmanship when you make those bulleted points, those bulleted pointed lists that end up on a sheet of paper that you never, ever find again until 6 months later. All right. So this is a system that has worked for me, and we can call it my salty strategy. Okay. 3 priorities a day. Just 3. Everything else, that's bonus round. If you get to number 4, 5, and 6, you are cooking with gas. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. All right. That's a bonus round. Trust me. 3 priorities a day. Don't make lists for your fantasy self. Your fantasy self doesn't exist. Today, you just need to get your taxes done, maybe. grocery shopping even. And these are outside of work priorities. The 3 priorities you will need to do may be set by your job or by your boss. It's going to be totally different for each one of us. But you must set those priorities. You must pull 3 things and get them done. And while you're doing it, make sure you're drinking water. Got to stay hydrated while you're working. It's the only way to keep yourself sane. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. If you wonder why I'm going to hear someone say along the lines, oh, well, I've had every planner you can think of, and they've never worked. Well, there's a reason why they didn't work. You're the reason why they didn't work. Okay? Don't blame the planner. You bought it. You wrote in it for a couple days, and then you flat out just ignored it. You didn't do anything with it. And you're mad now because that planner didn't leap off the desk, fill itself out, and mark itself off. You can't vibe your way to success. Even when you are a chaos queen, you need an action plan. And why am I the authority to speak to you on this? Ladies and gentlemen, if there isn't a chaos queen in your midst, her name's Ann Margaret. I promise you. I used to be one of the most unorganized individuals on the planet, and I'm sure that is extremely hard to believe, but it is true. So I learned a lesson when things weren't getting accomplished, when little things were falling through the cracks, when I couldn't remember what I had to do that day. And I'll take you all the way back to 1998. And I was a student in New York working towards my paramedic. I had 6 children, and I was a single mother. I actually had a date book way back in the day when we used to have those calendars that we would carry in our handbags. And they were these cute little fold over things with a plastic outer, protector on it. And I found out that the only way that I could really and truly stay organized was to color code that planner. So if it was a school-related function for me, a clinical rotation, ride time on the ambulance, or a lecture I had to sit in, I wrote it in pen, and then I used a highlighter and colored it in green. If it was a school item for one of the children, it was written in pen, highlighted in the color that was laid out for that particular child. Doctor's appointments were in blue. You name it, if it was a school function, it was written out and it was highlighted in a color so that I knew just by glancing at that day, I had a lecture for myself, clinical time at the hospital, ride time that night, and I had to do XYZ for such and such a child for a specific sport or choir or band or science fair, you name it. It was the only way I could stay organized. And I found that was the best way to keep myself on track so that I wouldn't forget anything. It's a lot different when you just have yourself to rely on and you don't have an entire, barn full of people that are running out the door to help you pick up your kids from school and get them to school and help them with their homework while you're running off doing this, that, the other thing. When you must rely on yourself, you get organized very, very quickly. I would get up at 4 a.m, do a couple loads of laundry, make breakfast, get the kids out the door to school. I would go to school. I would come back. I would cook all day on Sundays so that I could package up food. I did meal planning in 1998, the way people meal plan today, but I did it for 7 of us. Does that make me something special? No, I'm just telling you what worked for me. You do what you have to do. Doesn't make me super special. Just means I figured out a workaround, if you will. All right. So planning isn't a control freak issue. Okay. It's clarity. It gives you a line for every single thing that you're going to do. It's choosing what gets your energy that particular day before the rest of the day steals it. I have to get these things done today in preparation for this, and this before my day turns into complete and utter chaos. Okay. It is a core function. Your body, without you even thinking about it, prioritizes and plans its day based on the input that it gets, right? We all know about digestion, and we all know about vision and hearing and all of the input. The same thing is true for your schedule, right? If you want peace, start with priorities. Otherwise, you're literally stress decorating your dysfunction. And at our ages, that's unacceptable. So get yourself together. You prioritize your workout. You know what you're going to do when you do your workout. When you go and do your workout, I'm talking to all you individuals that go to the gym or work out at home. Do you not do your circuit the same way? Do you not have leg day? Or I don't know, because I don't work out. So, but then there's arm day or whatever, core day, whatever you do. But that is a plan. So if you can plan a workout, okay, if you can plan a meal, you can plan every aspect of your day. That doesn't mean that you become this rigid person and say, this 15 minutes, I am supposed to be doing this. I cannot do anything else but this. That's not what that means. You're just listing the 3 top things that you must get done for that particular day. You are prioritizing your energy for all of the things that you have to get accomplished. I know that when you do laundry, you have a system. Even if your system is that you break the rules and you wash your colors with your darks and your lights and your whites, that's still a system. You put the laundry in, you start the machine, you add your soap, you add your pre-wash. Am I right? It's still a system. It's still a plan. It's still the way or the routine that you do. I promise you, you're far more routined than you believe you are. And I'm telling you, I used to say this to people all the time. If I were a creeper and I was in watching you brush your teeth every day, you brush your teeth the same way every single day, unless something distracts you. The cat puking on the carpet, the dog taking a crap in the kitchen. As long as nothing knocks you off your game, you brush your teeth the same way every single day. That is what your brain does. So you can plan your day. If you can do that, you have no problem setting aside either through time blocking, and your time blocking doesn't have to be 15 minutes. You can do 30-minute increments. You could do 40-minute increments with an 8-minute break and then get right back to it. You just have to find the system that you would be most comfortable with, that you will stick to. Doesn't have to be the one that I use. Figure it out for you. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what this is all about? This is all about improving things for you, your life, your longevity, your happiness, your peace. And if it isn't giving you peace and it isn't giving you pleasure, it's time to stop. Why would you continue? Find what works for you. Whether you time block, you prioritize, you make a list. I have lists that go on for days and days and days of all the projects that I have in the pipeline, that I someday might want to do, that I need to do for either my private practice or for this podcast or for the coloring books that I've made. I have lists coming out the yin yang, but they're all contained in one place. And as I add knowledge about whatever it is that I want to undertake, I add them in the book. Eventually this book will be full. I figure it's got about another week on it, and then I'll start the next book. And I will continue on this journey because this is what works for me. It may not work for you. I don't want a fancy planner. I use an electronic calendar. All my stuff goes in there, in my Outlook. All right. And I keep track of everything there as far as appointments are concerned. But day to day, when I have lists of things to do, I have to look and see because I had a few things that were on my list. I was able to mark a few of them off today, believe it or not, even though I was fairly busy. Let's see. I was able to get a number of patients handled today that needed some extraneous activities done for them. And I didn't actually forget to make sure that I supplied my house with the things that they needed. I do have a few dogs that need dog food. So, although I do automate Chewy, I make sure that they bring me all my dog food for all them dogs. Okay. A lot of the things that I do, I like to automate so that it just takes care of itself. That saves time, right? But I had to do a logo for a gentleman today who needed some t-shirts done. I found a new supplier for some spinal needles I needed. I had a whole list of things to do. And I got it all done. Doesn't make me special. I'm just learning to be more efficient. Far more efficient than I've ever been. And that was my goal for 2025. What's your goal for 2025? Mine was to become extremely organized, optimize efficiency. And I'm working on that. They may continue into 2026. I might not be finished. Doesn't make me a failure. It just makes me real. So again, if you fail to plan, well, I know that you're actually planning on blaming everybody else for your failures. Cut that out. Be successful. Find some peace. Get your shit together. All right? Stop telling yourself lies. All right? And just remember, plan, find a strategy, and make it work. All right, my friends, listen, it's been more than 30 minutes. This little party's over. It's time for me to go have some pizza or something for dinner. Y'all are starting your day. It's bright and early Wednesday morning. Have a wonderful week. Stay salty. Stay savage. Strategize. And find some really great peace this week. Take care. See you next week.